Israel, Spain, England, Germany, Poland, Russia, Italy, France. The list goes on and on. The only thing in common between all of these countries is that Jews have been expelled from all of these lands at some point in the last 3,000 years. It is for this reason we have been known as the Wandering Jews. But this moniker, I would argue, is a misnomer. We did not wake up one day and decide that as a collective people we had wanderlust, or that we needed to go on a long and meandering hike through the wilderness that we call the world. Rather, we were forced to wander in a world that would not allow us any place to call our home. We had no place to settle because people would rather believe what they read in the Bible, or later in a magazine or tabloid or printing press, that Jews were greedy or corrupt moneylenders, untrustworthy, Judas, the backstabber, than to get to know any one Jewish person face to face in a real and compassionate way. We had no one to shelter us, to provide us with safe passage, or to allow us the freedom or safety of a place to truly call home. That was until exactly 315 years ago, this August, 1790, when George Washington appeared before a crowd of leading citizens in Newport, Rhode Island, to discuss the very first amendment to the U.S. Constitution, freedom of religion. While 9 of the 13 states had already passed the First Amendment, prohibiting the idea of a state religion, what the colonialists fled in Europe, there were 4 states holding out and unwilling to pass the Freedom of Religion Amendment. So Washington was in Rhode Island to hear from his constituents. One of the major leaders of the synagogue in Newport, Rhode Island, stood up and said, "Deprived as we have been of invaluable rights of free citizens, we now, as Jews, with a great sense of deep gratitude to these United States, deeply desire a country which holds no bigotry and to persecution no assistance." In an unprecedented response to the Jewish community, George Washington wrote back in a matter of 3 days. And to be honest, all of us sitting here today, he says to them, he will support a government that will give bigotry no sanction and persecution no assistance. He mirrors the words of Moshe Sexton. He says that this is the type of country that he will support. He believes the First Amendment is the only way to go. I say this because for many of us, the United States is the first place any of us as Jews have been able to call home in any real or lasting way. While there is no shortage of problem in American politics or threats upon America from abroad, as American Jews we have to count our blessings every day. For 350 years ago, this was the first time we have had ever in history our own place to call home. And that is nothing short of a modern miracle. As Washington said in the last line of his speech to the Jews of Newport, "May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, and every one shall sit safely under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid." Quoting from the book of Isaiah, President Washington. And for the most part, we have. And yet with privilege comes great responsibility. As the 21st century Reformed Jewish rabbi and philosopher Eugene Borowitz teaches us, few people in our society today know intimately what it means to suffer for centuries as pariahs and then come to positions of power and influence. Our own family histories teach us that society is judged best by the way it treats its most powerless people. The Bible once identified those people as the widow, the stranger, and the orphan. Today, Jews are in the unique position to identify with and to help such sufferers. In fact, the rabbis of the Talmud point out that the Torah reminds us no less than 36 times that we were strangers in a strange land, so that we do not become complacent or overconfident. Thus, it is fitting that in this week's Torah portion, Moses rebukes the Israelites loud and clear. When you have eaten your fill and you have built your houses that are fine to live in, and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered, beware, lest your heart grow haughty, and you forget Adonai your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. But the problem is, we have forgotten. We have become complacent. We have become overconfident, and we have turned our eyes from the discomfort of others. Perhaps as individuals we give with all of our hearts. I am not denying that. But as a community, we can do better. And that is what we are trying to do here tonight. It is a huge problem that in one of the most affluent countries in the world, there are people like us, like wandering Jews of the past, who are wandering because they have no other choice. Each night in America, there are over 600,000 people who do not have a place to call home. They are sleeping on friends' couches, packed into apartments made for 2, but sleeping 8 or 10. They might find a night in a shelter if they're lucky, but for others, they're found in tents or streets or in a shanty. I'm not sure if you know, but this year when I took my confirmation class to the rescue mission, it's illegal to sleep in your car. It's illegal to sleep in a public park. You can be fined hundreds and hundreds of dollars for being homeless. And I don't think you'd choose to sleep outside if you didn't have to. These people, whom we often refer to as homeless, are exposed to the elements, to rain, to hunger, to disease, and worst of all, to our ignorance, complacency, and apathy. Here in Santa Barbara County alone, there are 2,000 homeless people living on our streets every night. And while we are doing our part to support some of the local efforts in town through providing meals and other kinds of support at Pershing Park, Transition House, Casa Esperanza, and Habitat for Humanity, the sad reality is that the shelters here in Santa Barbara can only accommodate about a quarter of the homeless population every night. So for about 1,500 people in Santa Barbara County, they have no place to sleep at night, to get a meal, or to take a shower on a day-to-day basis. Enter an organization called H.E.A.L, which stands for Hope, Empowerment, and Love, which is coordinated by Dr. Reverend Doug Miller and his wife, Sandy Miller, who are up there. Can you guys wait? Started in about 2010, they would gather monthly for the community organizing meetings, and they asked their brothers and sisters who were suffering from the pain of homelessness what they needed most. And they said 3 things. First of all, they said, we're not homeless. We're houseless. We have homes. Like the saying goes, home is where the heart is. We have a place. We have families. We have people who care of us. Housing shortage is systemic. We are not the problem, and we are not less than anyone else. So you'll see all of our literature today has been on purpose. It says houseless. And that was taught to me by my friend, Reverend Doug Miller. And I hope that we can continue to use that language here at CBB. Number 2, we need a safe place to sleep at night without being harassed, without understanding that homelessness has been criminalized in many ways in the United States. And number 3, surprising as it might have been in 2010, we need a place to shower. Hygiene is a huge part of avoiding long-term health problems. But not only that, beyond the health problems, it provides dignity. It allows them to go into a coffee shop, to use a public restroom, to ask for help without someone looking askance at them. It also allows them to apply for a job, to walk into a room and not be stared at. Think about it. As simple as this sounds, a shower can literally and figuratively save and change someone's life. Having launched just over 10 months ago, Showers of Blessing, the mobile shower unit that's parked out front, has already provided almost 1,000 showers to date in 10 months. On Mondays and Thursdays, the shower trailer is in Isla Vista for 2 to 3 hours each, where the participants are not only able to receive a shower, but also free food and clean clothes, which when you go up to see it, they can explain how they do that whole process. They have served over 100 individuals, and they estimate by the end of the year, they'll provide well over 2,000 showers to those in need. But none of this work would have been possible without the hard work, determination, and dedication of a few amazing people, including but not limited to the co-coordinators of the project. The brainchild, actually, is Reverend Doug Miller's wife, Sandy, who came up with this. He told me I needed to mention her, so I do. And Reverend Doug Miller, obviously, and Marty Jenkins, who is our co-coordinator, but also the business manager. Can you wave for everybody? As well as Pastor Reverend Ron Cox, who is pivotal in helping the project get off the ground and finding the trailer to begin with. And I also have to thank and honor Cantor Childs, because it was his involvement as a board member on the Interfaith Initiative Santa Barbara that this project came across my desk to begin with. So I feel blessed to have seen the Showers of Blessing in action, because they put so much love and care into every detail of their work. From cleaning out the shower between every single participant, to making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for everyone, to doing every last load of laundry done by hand by Sandy in their house for the clothes that they wear. Last but not least, what's even more amazing to me about this project is that a third of their operating budget goes back into paying for the salary of someone whom I'd like to introduce to you now. Her name is Linda McDade. She's the operations manager of Showers of Blessing, and she's here to share a little bit of her story facing houselessness and finding her way back to healing through her recent work in Santa Barbara.
Hi. I'm going to read off my notes because I'm a little nervous. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I want to thank you for allowing me to share my testimony with you today and how it came to be that I became the operations manager for Showers of Blessing. I was born into an alcoholic family and the youngest of 4 children, and my parents' relationship was one of hatred for one another. So growing up I was in a lot of fear. The physical abuse was directed at me at the age of 11, and that's when I picked up my first drink, and I became an alcoholic. At the age of 13, I couldn't stand it anymore, and I left home. This was the beginning of a 38-year of an alcoholism, drug addiction, abusive relationships. And although I had brief times where I had stayed sober, I inevitably went back to self-medicating. I was a functional addict in that I had a career in the medical field for over 20 years, had a home, a car, was a single parent, and provided for myself. I went to school. I had a few of my own businesses. I was independent, but time was taking its toll. And I had been divorced twice, had 2 beautiful children, of whom I lost through custody battles, which drove me deeper into my addiction. I had 3 DUIs, spending time in jail, and several suicide attempts. It was when I was 48 years old when I started to realize that I may never get better. I was now homeless, lost everything I worked for, even the heartbreak of losing my children's baby pictures, let alone losing the relationship with them. I was facing prison time now for drug-related charges. I ended up living on the streets with people that were strangers, and at the end, the abuse became more severe, and I was in and out of hospitals with broken bones and concussions. I want to impress on you that during this time in my life, a simple smile from a passerby did give me the slightest glimpse of hope that there may be people out there that care. The constant feeling was that of an ant crawling up a sand dune. I so desperately wanted to get out of that lifestyle and change my life, but it seemed like every step I took, it was just kicked out from under me. Excuse me. I wanted out of that lifestyle, and the constant stomachache, fear, and humiliation, living like that was constant. I couldn't take it anymore, and I remember one night I looked at the pictures of my grandchildren, and knowing I could never face them again, and look them in the eye and tell them how wonderful life was. So I was in this vortex of darkness with no joy and no hope at all. And I said out loud, God, if you exist, get me out of here. Please just let me die. It wasn't long after that I had gotten into a 1-year rehab where they studied the Bible with me. The people there chose to allow God to use them as a vessel to save lives and to help those who could no longer help themselves. My relationship was building with God as I was learning that He loved me, and most of all, He forgave me for all the pain that I have caused my children and my family. Then came the opportunity to be used in the ministry. The Showers of Blessing ministry goes far beyond a simple smile. We build relationships, trust, and I do believe that we give hope. I am honored and blessed that I'm able to reach out to those who are just like I was just a few years ago. Though some days are more challenging than others, there is a song I listen to, and one of the verses goes like this. I look around at the poverty, the pain and suffering, children being sold into slavery, and it disgusts me. I look to heaven and ask God, why don't you do something? And He said, I did. I created you. Thank you very much for letting me share my testimony.
Thank you, Linda. You probably said it best. He created all of us. And we're here, and we have to ask ourselves, how can we serve? And what I really want to say is that there's a lot of ways to help. Some of you are already doing it, but how can we help as a CBB community? And that's the question that I want to raise tonight. There are, hopefully, as you walked in this afternoon, you received some flyers. The Showers of Blessing can always use volunteers, in-kind donations, and the like. And you can ask any of the people who raise their hands, they'll be out front, what you can do to help with your time and your resources. The synagogue itself is the board, as a recommendation from myself and Cantor Childs, Rabbi Cohn, and our social action trustee, Dan Meisel, passed a resolution in July that states, we seek funds in support of the organization H.E.A.L and Showers of Blessing. It's been a long time since we've, as a social action committee, really stepped up and said, we're going to do this as a community. Because if you look at the Showers of Blessing, if you look on the side of that trailer, there's a lot of churches on that trailer. And we think that our name should be up there too. So we're lucky and we're blessed that as a Cedar Fund, that Gary and Ellen Bialis, the family, has started that Cedar Fund for us and has donated $5,000 to help us get started to help fund the Showers of Blessing. But in order for us to, we should celebrate that. Because that's the beginning of a great celebration. But here tonight, and I hope you're after at the Oneg, we're all going to take a walk up. The Oneg is actually not going to be on the back patio because we want you to take a look at this amazing mobile shower unit. It's going to be on the back patio. You're going to have a chance to look at other opportunities to give. And I'm going to encourage you, whether it's $5 or $10 or much more, you take a look at this donation form. Because not only are they donating, Bialis family donating the Cedar money that I just mentioned, whatever we raise, up to $5,000, they will match us dollar for dollar. So between now and August 31st, whatever us as a community, CBB raises, if we raise $5,000 here as a community tonight, or over the next how many every days, they will match us another $5,000. So by the end of August 31st, if we're really work hard at this, we could help Showers of Blessing up to $15,000. How amazing would that be? Their operating budget, that's a big chunk of their operating budget. And you heard what that does for Linda and her family, does for a lot of people. Over 1,000, 2,000 people served by us just donating. Could be even just $10 or $15 tonight. All of us here put that out. Can you imagine? There's not as many people here as a normal Friday night, so what I have to ask you to do is that everybody put this on their Facebook page, they ask their friends, every dollar counts, okay? It will be on our website. You can do a donation tonight, you can do by credit card, you can do by check, you can do any way you want, but this matters. It matters to me. It's not just, it is a smile, but it's more than a smile. It's understanding that human dignity and everybody should have a place to call home. And that's including us as Jews. It's including people who have never ever had a place to call home. So I hope you'll join me and you'll spread the word and that you'll join us on top for a celebration as we celebrate a new initiative here at CBP, and that you're the first to hear about it and that you spread the word and that together we celebrate a new way to interact with our interfaith partners here in Santa Barbara. Shabbat Shalom. Again, Reverend Doug and Sandy and Marty. And we have a few other people up top. Also, I asked a few people to come early. Debbie Scott. Also, Elaine Saffin's been helping out. Marlene Beckerman, Elizabeth Mason. They're all going to help us hand out flyers and such. And also to our Audrey Okoneko, who I think is still here. She helped me tremendously in this process of getting the showers of blessing up and running. And to Dusty, who's also here tonight, Heist Levine, who's been pivotal in this process. I already mentioned you, Cantor, but thank you again. Oh, he wants me to mention him again. So he passed it to my desk, but it was really about 20 hours after that I worked on it. I mean, Marty and I could write a book of the emails that we've done on this project so far, but it really is one of my passion projects. So I really hope that that came through.
Thank you all to the Bialis family, especially Gary, who's volunteered to demonstrate the shower tonight. Thank you, Gary, for that. We'll all be there. First, make kiddush, then take a shower.
Okay. Yes, and
oh, thank you for that. Hey, I've worn it very comfortable. We have a high demand.